tonight. And no, my house is not magically silent, as usual. My special guest is Michaela and her mom, Mary Lynn. Hi, everyone. Michaela runs the blog called Edge of the Playground. And I met Michaela when we were baby bloggers. And we had just started out. And Michaela actually did a guest post for notanautismmom.com. And we've been friends ever since. So she has taught me so much with her blog about my own children. One of my favorite articles she wrote was about dealing with grief as an autistic person, and the way she described her feelings and her actions. It spoke to me about my own kids, and I learned so much from her blogs. So, Michaela, do you want to talk about your blog at all?
Yeah, I started it over a year ago at this point. So it's still fairly new. And when I first started it, I really was wanting to focus on like more adulthood transitions for autistic people, because I felt there was a gap between services that children can get, and then you become an adult and it's like, what do I do? So yes. There's not as much information out there. But then I just realized, there was so much more. Like there's still so much need, even in the early childhood years, for people who need advice. And my mom and I, my mom mostly has been working on a book for a really long time. And so initially I was like, well, I'm going to start blogging, kind of build up some more interest for that. But the blog itself just kind of turned into its own thing as well. And so it just kind of took off from there. And now both of us do a lot of work in the autism community, presenting and educating from both the parent and the child perspective.
That is so awesome. You just got a job with the schools, consulting with them. Is that right?
Yep. We're doing some teacher training and teacher, professional development stuff, and for teachers, counselors, psychologists, nurses. It's been really great.
Kudos to that school system for asking an actually autistic individual for guidance. Kudos to them. That's awesome. And so, Michaela, you have a book coming out very soon, and I'm really excited about your book because Michaela gave me a little access to it beforehand, and it is amazing. And the book is unique because it talks about Michaela's journey through autism and through growing up being autistic, and then it switches over to Michaela's mom, Mary Lynn, and her experiences raising Michaela and navigating the world of autism, and just everything that they both experience, and they give each other's perspective. So it's so amazing. So do you want to say anything about your book?
Yeah, our book, I guess. So I think my mom can definitely speak to more of that because she really was the driving force behind that. And then I, was adding my little parts in there. So I kind of went off her writing, and I would read, her experiences, and then I would recall my experiences and write about that, how I felt, at the time, inserting those chapters so that, like you were saying, you can have both perspectives in one short little book because I thought it would be really helpful.
When I started the book, it was more for just to tell the story, and it was kind of more cathartic for me than anything. And then as I got going on it, I realized it was a huge need, and it started actually in Michaela's school, in her grammar school, and I would show it to colleagues of mine that were teachers, and they were really encouraging and saying this is a huge need, and it's huge support for parents and teachers and
absolutely
community. So I really felt that it was just something that was really needed. And once Michaela got on board, then it really took off because she sort of propelled me to finish, for one thing, and then also it was her reacting to my writing. talking about like what she felt like during that same time period.
Yeah, it's a lot different now too, because like I'm self-identifying now.
Right.
And for the longest time, like throughout high school and stuff,
Sorry. Okay, sorry.
but yeah, it wasn't until like the college years that I went beyond just telling my teachers or anybody that needed to know for accommodation. Once I was, I was masking a little bit more, I guess you could say. So once I started self-identifying with the blog, and in my adult life, I think that really is what caused the blog to take off and the book to propel itself forward.
Right, because one thing is, I really didn't want to infringe on Michaela's privacy. So I think that was a big driving force for me not to publish sooner. I really wanted her to be comfortable with the whole idea. And so now that she's embraced it and she's a huge, huge part of the whole thing, it's a 50-50 deal. So now it's really just taken off.
It's so unique. I've never read a book like that before. It's really amazing.
Thank you.
I love hearing both of your viewpoints on different situations and the different ways you experienced what was going on while you were just a little girl.
Well, I think it's so great because Michaela is at a point now where she can actually, tell you what that felt like, what it was like to be that autistic nonverbal child. Because as parents, a lot of times we're guessing, and we're trying different strategies. We're trying
almost all the time.
And, and you go to all these therapies, occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, and you go home and then you try and implement all this stuff, but it's just, you're stabbing in the dark.
Wild. Yeah.
So, but if you have somebody who can say, gosh, this really worked, not that the strategies that work for Michaela will work for everybody, because of course everybody's unique, but to have somebody who can be talking to you from that perspective and say, this really helped and this really didn't, I just think is a great thing.
And now like I have more self-awareness too.
Go ahead, Michaela.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I have the self-awareness because it was hard for me too, like with all the sensory overload, like the aversion to touch, like all that kind of stuff. I knew like it was hard for me, but I didn't have a way to describe it because I didn't know other people weren't also experiencing that. So now, that I've been through all this and I'm looking back, I now have the words to describe it because at the time I just didn't have that awareness.
Yeah, and that's why I love your blog, Michaela. Your blog, like every article, I feel like I learned something new about my own kids and what maybe they might be going through, even though my kids don't have the ability to express themselves like that. I mean, you're a lot older now, so you can.
And she didn't have that ability when she was young either.
Yeah.
But the great thing about her blog too that I love so much is the articles are relatively short.
Mm-hmm.
And as a parent, you know that there's not a lot of time. And that was a big, when I started the book, I had like 350 pages and I realized, okay, if I was at that point, there's no way I was going to sit down and read 300 pages. So I really tried to get it down under 150, 120 so that it was doable.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so great about the blog. You can go to the blog and look down through the articles and say, oh, this is what I want to read about. And in 10 minutes, you can be done.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, I forget what my favorite article was. I love the one about grief. And It's funny because what I learned from your article had nothing to do with grief. It was about why you walked on your toes and how that felt to you. And it was just amazing. And I was like, oh, my babies walk on their toes. You know what I mean? So it was like, so that might be something that they're experiencing and just can't even tell me why. So, I think I have another. I can't see the rest of the. Oh, there we go. Somebody said I found you.
Yay!
Yes. Woo, woo, woo. Welcome to the book club. So, what else do you want to talk about? Anything else you want to talk about when are you publishing, Michaela and Mom?
Hopefully by September 1st.
Yeah, that's our goal. We're gonna it'll go on pre-sale first. So if you go to the Edge of the Playground Facebook page, that's where it's going to be announced. The cover art is in the final stages. So once that's completed this week, there's going to be an announcement.
That's awesome. Well, I'll post the links to Michaela's blog And there was another link that I was going to post. Definitely her blog. Oh, and her Facebook page. I'll post both links in the comments of this live feed after we're finished. I don't know how to
If
do
you
that.
go
Right.
to edgeoftheplayground.com, it's all there.
Oh yeah. That's right. Thank you. Yes, I will post all those links when we get out of this. I don't know how to do it right now. But, so publishing September-ish. That's our goal.
Yes.
Awesome. Anything else you want to say about it?
Just I hope it's a great help to everybody. My experiences, I think, are not unique. And of course, Michaela was raised in a different time. When there was no team approach. There really wasn't. She was sort of in the first wave of kids that weren't institutionalized. It was the first time people were putting these kids into regular school settings. Of course, she wasn't in a regular school setting to start, but we did eventually get there. But even though it was different in that way, a lot of the experiences are still very much the same. And so I think it can be a great tool. It can be
after reading the neurotribes, then we'll see like what time frame we were dealing with, because I think that as we I think we're halfway through neurotribes, and as we get closer to present day, we'll see. Like Michaela, how old are you, Michaela? Ish.
I was born in 1991.
Okay,
so 27.
Gosh, you're young. Okay, so Michaela's 27, so we'll see that. I mean, it wasn't long ago at all, but it was still.
Well, to give you some sort of a reference, when Michaela was born, the incidence of autism was 1 in 2,000 births. So there you go.
Wow.
So of course there weren't a lot of supports in place because there weren't many kids identified. And in fact, before 1990, that's when DSM changed the diagnostic code. So before 1990, it was actually classified as childhood schizophrenia. And then they changed it to autism.
Jeez, that recent, huh?
Yeah, and there wasn't even autism spectrum disorder at that time. It was, different levels of autism, and so now it's all coming under the umbrella in DSM of autism spectrum disorder.
So you guys were breaking boundaries as you went.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the other thing you were asking about the book was, when I was raising Michaela, there was no one in front of me. There was nobody in front of me to say, okay, this is how I did it, or this is what worked, or gosh, I just get you.
Right.
And we want to provide that.
I mean, this is before the internet.
It was
before the internet.
And even now, I feel, there's a ton of great advocates out there, thankfully, that I can look to now. But still, I felt like I reached adulthood and it was like, oh, I don't really know, how to do this, because there's not a lot of examples out there. Like there's some, but there's just not a lot at all.
Yeah, and I think that, all of the Twitter and Facebook, this is in the past, 7 years that, this is so recent that all of these people have come out and gotten the platform. So
well, I think the other part of it too is, the good news is there's so much information available. And the bad news is there's so much information available. Like, how do you even begin to sift through it all? Where do you even start?
That was chapter 2 of our book that we read, wasn't it? Talking about all of the things that, a parent gets the diagnosis and then so they turn to Google. And it's like the flip of the coin where you go to first is, right. And so you might go down this road and that kind of makes sense, or you could go down another path and that kind of makes sense. And there's so much information out there.
And what I did with Michaela was we tried everything. If it could possibly help her and it couldn't harm her, then I tried it, no matter how silly it looked. And that really helped. And there were some things that were scary. There were some things that we tried that, I don't even know how I really did it. It was just scary. But, you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm willing to try. But you have to be careful because, of course, you don't want to try, really unusual things that could possibly harm your child.
Right. And like you said, you didn't have anybody to guide you.
And the doctors even were,
the doctors are learning right along with you with your.
We burned through pediatricians. Let me tell you, we burned through several.
Well, that's
But I
awesome.
will say, let me give credit right here to the Yale Child Study Center at Yale University. They really were the driving force. They provided the roadmaps for Michaela. At that time, you know, we would go to local hospitals or clinics or whatever, and they would see maybe one autistic kid a month. You know, at Yale, they were seeing autistic kids all day, every day. So we would go up there and they would see her, evaluate her, give us a roadmap, and then, you know, we come back in 2 years or a year or whatever, and they followed her. And that was really a lifesaver.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So now we have those programs all over the country. You know,
Yeah.
now there's a team approach. You know, if you're going in for a diagnosis, you know, there's a whole team evaluating that child. There's the developmental pediatrician and the occupational therapist and the speech therapist, and everybody's working together. You know, for Michaela, everything was splintered. So, you know, the pediatrician would say, "Oh, we're not talking. We better go for a speech and hearing test. Oh, we've got low muscle tone and weakness. We better go to the, you know, OT. Oh, we've got this." But nobody was actually putting it all together.
Right. You didn't have a quarterback for your
Right.
for your
That's exactly right.
You needed a quarterback.
Right.
And so Yale did that.
That quarterback, which was really scary because I didn't have a medical degree.
I'm not qualified for this. I'm not qualified.
Yeah, but we got through it.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, I cannot wait for your book to come out. Oh, somebody else said that they were excited to read it too. Me three.
Thank you. I think we like it too because, I mean, my mom has said, like, it's not just about autism. Like, it's obviously very much about autism, but it's kind of more like a slice of our life, you know, a slice of life type of book. So
you'll see the family story interwoven into it.
Right.
You know, you'll see a little bit about Milo, the wonder therapy dog that wasn't. You know, you'll see, you know, the comings and goings of parents and grandparents passing and all those sorts of things that happen in everyone's life. You know, everyone's life continues on, even though this is a sort of a big focus. Life is continuing on.
That's awesome. You guys, I'm excited. Thank you for coming on. Hey, Dominic. So we're gonna do the drawing. Do y'all have anything else you want to say?
I'm good.
I think we're good. Thank you for having us.
Oh, somebody said I can't wait for the blog link. Yes, it's an amazing blog.
Go straight to Edge of the Playground.
Yeah, Edge of the Playground.